12 News Wildfire Special is sponsored by All Pro Shade Concepts. Gotta have shade.
Arizona wildfires are intense and unpredictable. Fires have already torn through towns in the Phoenix metro area. Wildfires in Arizona can happen at any time of the year, but as temperatures heat up and the drought intensifies, the fire danger skyrockets. We're breaking down fire season, how fast-moving wildfires ignite, the crews rushing in to fight them, and what it takes to protect homes and save lives.
We are standing in the burn scar of the West Fire, which burned near Payson back in 2024. And here we are 2 years later, you can see what's still left behind.
The West Fire burned roughly about 15,000 acres, just a few miles away from the towns of Pine and Strawberry.
Wildfires like this can pop up at any time in Arizona, and we've already seen some destructive wildfires in 2026, like the Hazen Fire in Buckeye and the Jones Fire that tore through Wickenburg.
They're fueled by a combination of a warm, dry winter and spring, and what's also known as a snow drought across the high country. Meteorologist Chris Dunn explains what could be next for Arizona.
We are expecting another busy fire season here in Arizona. We had a really warm winter and spring, and it was dry too. And the lack of snow cover in the high country means a snow drought has allowed things to dry out a lot quicker than normal. Our traditional wildfire season typically reaches its peak in June. That's when temperatures are high, relative humidity often drops into the single digits, and dry lightning starts to enter the picture. Here's the outlook for this season. Through the month of June, the National Interagency Fire Center has designated much of the Southwest, including all of eastern and northern Arizona, with above normal significant fire potential. That just means there's an elevated risk of a big fire, not that one will actually happen. By July, that above normal risk area is trimmed back to include just northern Arizona. That's in response to the onset of the monsoon and the rain and increasing humidity that comes with it. But remember, whether or not you're in that red zone, fires can happen anytime and anywhere. So always be prepared.
This is the Strawberry Inn. Back in 2021, it was threatened by the Backbone Fire, along with the entire towns of Strawberry and Pine.
And the owners of both the inn and the coffee shop, they were told to evacuate immediately with the possibility that there may not be anything left when they got back.
And it's small towns like these that bear the brunt of the wildfire season, and the people here are hoping they won't have to deal with it again anytime soon. So you moved here when?
2020 during COVID. We needed something to do. We weren't doing anything in Phoenix, so we came up here and opened a coffee shop.
And this is it?
This is it.
That's pretty cool looking.
It was a storage room when I got it, full of paint cans, mattresses, sheets, all that kind of stuff. Everything a hotel is thrown away. Okay.
So you have to maximize your space in here. You do a pretty good job.
Yes, we can get 3 people working in here, and it's got to be coordinated. You know that good feeling you get 20 minutes after you drink a coffee? Imagine that all day.
That's you?
That's yeah.
So Strawberry is surrounded by some beautiful forest.
It's gorgeous. I mean, the people come up here to hike and to beat the heat.
And unfortunately, this is the kind of forest that burns pretty easily.
It burns good. It burns fast. And it's been dry the last 2 years, and so it's a tinderbox.
Amber, take me back 5 years ago, 2021. What happened? What was that like for you?
So the Backbone Fire obviously was one of the closest fires we've had to the Strawberry Inn, especially since we bought the property. Our big focus was on evacuating all of our guests.
You had just a matter of about 15 minutes, right, to get everybody out of here.
Getting hands on every single guest was a lot of work, but we were able to do it.
The forest was burning, but there was no wind. So I'm like, I can outrun it if there's no wind. But if the wind picks up and I see the flames, then I'm out of here.
At what point did you decide, you know what, I have to open up my place to these firefighters?
That was almost immediate.
Yeah.
So I have firefighters and fire chiefs in my family, and we knew we would open our doors at least to have availability for showers, a clean and cold place to stay with air conditioning, just to give them a break because they're working so hard.
Just grab stuff like, a few things.
I'm hoping that's going to be okay.
It was almost a month that we were evacuated. So we weren't on property. We weren't allowed to be up here at all. Dan from the coffee shop was here.
One of the guys walks over and he goes, "Am I dreaming or are you serving coffee?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I'm serving coffee. That's my job. I serve coffee. Come on over." Yeah, we had some of the wildfire crews staying at the hotel. The hotel offered them free lodging. And so, yeah, they took it.
Right.
And one night, They packed up and left. I said, where are you guys going? They go, the fire's too close, it's too dangerous, we're gonna leave. And I'm like, okay, that's a little concerning.
And so what'd you do?
I stayed.
You stayed?
Yeah.
Wow. Never any doubt in your mind at
No,
that point?
like I said, I still figured I could make it if the things turned bad.
I mean, here is this huge fire coming in, and you've got the staging area right here on your property. I mean, what was that like for you?
Just constant stress, honestly, with, we were praying a lot.
Is wildfire something you think about? Like, I don't know about on a daily basis, but I would imagine during these summer months up here.
We think about it on a daily basis.
I mean, it's always in the back of your mind, but with the community's efforts to put in fire breaks, we really do feel very safe and fortunate in this community.
Biggest ponderosa forest in the world.
And it's
Arizona.
At risk almost every summer.
Yeah. Be careful if you're smoking, be careful with your cigarette butts. No outside fires.
Keep the forest for the next generation?
Yes. Yeah.
As wildfire season ramps up, you're going to hear terms like brush fire, containment, and backburns.
12 News journalist William Pitts explains what those terms mean and how crews fight these fires.
First, what's the difference between a brush fire and a wildfire? Well, wildfire is a broad term. It's any unplanned fire in a natural area. A brush fire is something that specifically burns low-lying brush, like grass, small bushes, things like that. And when they burn, firefighters go fight them. They're called wildland firefighters, and while they all fight fire, not all wildland firefighters are hotshots. Hotshots have a lot more training and certification. A firefighter's main tool is not planes and helicopters, even though they are the most visible. Really, they just slow the fire down. Hand crews do most of the work, building fire lines. They're on the ground, clearing away anything that can burn with hand tools and bulldozers, hacking out the brush as they go. That's called a fire line, and a fire line can be something natural, like a road or a river. You'll hear the term backburns a lot. Remember, firefighters use natural fire lines like roads, but if they want to make the fire line even better, they'll give it some help. The main fire is still far away, and fire crews light their own fire ahead of it, burning out the area between the main fire and the fire line. That way, when the fire hits the burned area, there's nowhere for it to go and nothing left to burn. If firefighters do all of these things, they can start getting containment. Containment means a fire line has been built in front of the fire, and it's holding. When a line is built all the way around, that's fully contained. Controlled is when all the hotspots inside the fire are out, and that can take months.
Remote forest fires are not the only threat crews face this summer, but urban wildfires, which burn near or inside valley cities. A Valley Fire Department shows us how they're preparing for fires that could jump from the desert to homes and businesses.
This is a Type 1 truck. It looks just like a regular urban fire truck you'd see, but it carries water, and its crews are specially equipped. This is a regular Scottsdale firefighter, but he's got this stuff.
Yeah, and it's all assigned to them. These are on the trucks. This is a shelter in case he gets into a situation where he has to deploy his shelter.
The next truck used is a Type 3. It can get into rougher desert, and crews don't even need to leave the truck to fight fire.
So it's our Type 3 brush truck. It'll go on all brush incidents, urban interface incidents. It's basically got a turret on the front here, so if we were to come up to a fire on a roadway, we can fire up the turret. We don't need to even get out of the vehicle.
Finally, the smallest truck, a Type 6, the size of a heavy-duty pickup. This one can go almost anywhere and hit spot fires and do mop-up. This looks like a much smaller hose.
Yeah, so it's a much smaller hose, flexible hose attached to it, once again, like I said, and they can also, they can pump and run with this hose.
What can people at home do to make your job easier if fire comes?
Give us a 30-foot defensible space around their home. Yeah, clear out all the dead brush. If you've got all these really, like this one's completely gone, it's starting to die, it's extremely brittle, so when you pull it off, cut those back. Dead is dead, dry is dry, just everybody needs to be careful.
Throwing a backyard barbecue, but your guests are the ones getting cooked?
You gotta have shade.
Need some relief from the sun when you're chilling by the pool?
You gotta have shade.
Want your family to enjoy the backyard all year round?
You gotta have shade.
You trying to watch the game, but the sun's blaring in?
You gotta have shade.
Every backyard has a sun problem. We have your solution. Call or visit allproshade.com or come see us at our new showroom in North Phoenix because you gotta have shade.
Call All Pro Shade, shade, shade.
12 News Wildfire Special is sponsored by All Pro Shade Concepts. Gotta have shade.
As Arizona enters its peak wildfire season, the cost of fighting these fires from the air is surging. Rising jet fuel prices, driven mainly by the war in Iran, is really making the attack from the air expensive.
12 News journalist Maria Stobbs tells us how.
When wildfires break out in Arizona, aircraft are often the first called in.
They have to be in the air within 15 minutes.
For more than 3 decades, Burl Shears has run Western Pilot Service, an aerial firefighting operation based in Buckeye, with aircraft ready to respond across Arizona and across the country.
We drop the red fire retardant that you see all the time on these fires.
These single-engine air tankers can fly lower and get closer to flames, reaching places ground crews can't.
This airplane will burn between 85 and 100 gallons an hour.
But all that flight time comes at a cost. According to Global Air, the national average for Jet A fuel in May was close to $8 a gallon. That's up from $6.34 in February, before the war in Iran began, adding thousands of dollars a day to the cost of fire suppression flights.
They go up and down, they do.
Thanks to federal fire aviation contracts, operators like Shears aren't absorbing those cost increases.
And if they have risen significantly, they will give us a flight rate adjustment to pay for the additional cost of fuel.
Instead, taxpayers would take on the costs. The U.S. Forest Service tells 12 News it spent more than $52 million on aviation fuel last year. This year, the agency has budgeted $45 million.
I think obviously if these prices stay up, it won't be enough if the fire season is as severe as it was last year.
What concerns Shears most is the supply. As of mid-May, the California Energy Commission reports jet fuel stocks at their lowest level in more than 4 years.
The worry is the supply will be interrupted refueling these smaller airports that we work on, so they may not have fuel.
Shears says his company is ready if that happens.
Everything that we have capacity for storage is all full. So we have plenty for the next 6 weeks or so.
And he's confident if supplies get tight, firefighting aircraft will be prioritized.
I don't think the public would be put at risk. I'm sure it's being looked at a very high level of the federal government.
No two wildfires are exactly alike, and the same goes for the firefights. Vegetation, topography, they have huge impacts.
12 News journalist Trisha Hendricks has a closer look at how the landscape shapes the strategy for these fire crews.
Here in the Valley of the Sun and the outskirts, we see a lot of the salt cedar and the low-lying brush, but depending on the elevation up in the high country, a dramatically different landscape. That all changes how crews fight a fire when one ignites.
Every wildfire tells a different story, written by the land it burns through.
Just a little north into Payson, we jump right into pine trees, and that needle cast becomes a different thing that you have to fight. You go a little further south and you have grass for days. It's a different tactic, a different way we fight these fires.
Incident Commander Burl Teague explains what can be challenging.
We in Arizona have every different fuel type there is.
In flatter, more open desert terrain, crews can often get ahead of a fire, cutting containment lines and using heavy equipment to slow its spread.
On this one, we're doing a lot of indirect. We're not going direct, right, because the fuels are too thick. We can't get guys directly on it. The dozers are trying to go as direct as possible.
But when a blaze moves into steeper, rugged terrain, the approach shifts dramatically. Aerial support becomes a critical tool when ground crews can't safely access a fire's path, with air tankers and helicopters dropping retardant to slow the burn while firefighters work from below. Here in Arizona, the combination of drought conditions, dense desert scrub, and unpredictable wind patterns create some of the most challenging wildfire environments in the country. and crews train year-round to be ready for it. Tiffany Davila works with the Arizona Department of Forestry and Fire Management.
You're preparing for anywhere at any time.
Absolutely, and I think that's a good point you brought up is, we don't just fight fire in Arizona. Like I said, we go out of state and do that. There's different vegetation types, there's different landscapes, different terrain. You're also gaining that knowledge and experience to bring back to the state of Arizona and bring back to our agency so that you can help grow and mentor other firefighters that are up and coming as well.
Fire managers say no two fires and no two landscapes are ever the same. But what stays constant is the preparation, the expertise, and the crews ready to adapt the moment conditions change.
So as a homeowner, if you live in Arizona, no matter what your backyard looks like, make sure that any dead or dying brush is removed from your property at least 30 feet.
Throwing a backyard barbecue, but your guests are the ones getting cooked?
You gotta have shade.
Need some relief from the sun when you're chilling by the pool?
You gotta have shade.
Want your family to enjoy the backyard all year round?
You gotta have shade.
You trying to watch the game, but the sun's blaring in?
You gotta have shade.
Every backyard has a sun problem. We have your solution. Call or visit allproshade.com or come see us at our new showroom in North Phoenix because you gotta have shade.
Call All Pro Shade, shade, shade.
It remains one of the darkest days in Arizona history.
Right now, what we do know is that 19 firefighters were killed.
On June 30th, 2013, Prescott's own Granite Mountain hotshot crew was overrun by flames as they battled the Yarnell Hill fire. The elite hotshot crew was led by Eric Marsh.
He absolutely loved it. He loved the travel. He loved, as he used to say, turning boys into men.
In the months following the tragedy, Marsh's widow Amanda started the Eric Marsh Foundation.
Remember the boys, to honor them first, and to do good in their name.
More recently, the nonprofit found a new home in downtown Prescott on Cortez Street. Inside is a place where people can learn about the Granite Mountain hotshots and even see props from the movie Only the Brave. There's coffee, clothing, and artwork for sale. Every purchase helps families of fallen and injured wildland firefighters. The Eric Marsh Foundation provides financial assistance for things like mortgage payments, therapy, even pet food.
We stay in these families' lives and these widows' lives for the long haul.
Bodie Macbeth and her children needed help in 2020 when her husband Ian died in a plane crash while fighting a wildfire in Australia.
Amanda reached out to me to see, if I was needing help with bills, which is really amazing. So she did help me catch up on a few bills.
The Eric Marsh Foundation also hosts widow retreats, which Macbeth has found even more support in.
Talking to other people in similar situations, lots of pain, lots of different stories. It was a really amazing experience, and just realizing that I'm not alone in this.
For Amanda, the work is personal and rooted in the town she loves.
The Eric Marsh Foundation needs to be in Prescott because this is where the boys are. This is where Eric's buried, is in this town about 5 miles from here.
The hotshots story and ultimate sacrifice continues to inspire through the foundation and now through this shop.
They continue to have a voice in the world. They continue the good work that they've done.
As we enter fire season, there are current and former Forest Service employees who are raising concerns about how the recent overhaul of wildfire operations are affecting their ability to fight fires all across the Southwest.
12 News journalist Joe Dana spoke to the Forest Service and also wildfire experts about it.
Though every wildfire season brings worries, former Flagstaff Councilman Jim McCarthy says there are 2 reasons this season will keep him up at night. Exceptionally dry fuels and a massive reorganization at the U.S. Forest Service.
My concern is, are we going to have the resources to fight these big fires when they do come?
Forest communities like Flagstaff rely on the federal government to be swift and organized if the unthinkable happens.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy.
When the Trump administration's DOGE team fulfilled a campaign promise to slash government jobs last year, thousands of forestry and wildfire-related positions were lost from cuts and early retirement. A new report about losses in the public lands workforce shows 6,500 fewer employees in these western states, 679 job losses in Arizona. The positions are related to conservation management, water resource planning, and wildfire management.
The reason we're doing this is ultimately to better serve the public.
Forestry Service Chief Tom Schultz defends the shakeup. It would include phasing out mid-level positions and closing many research stations and regional offices.
In the flattening of this organization, we expect to actually drive over time more resources, funding, and staff to the districts and to the forests.
The truth of the matter is they're cutting in places where it really does matter.
A recent nonprofit's analysis found the Forest Service completed 38% less wildfire mitigation work last year compared with previous seasons.
What do you make of the abrupt way this is all happening? Because some are certainly concerned.
I think the concern is valid, but there's an opportunity before us, and Chief Tom Schultz has been really adamant that he's going to get money and resources back to the ground.
Retired forester and district ranger Jim Paxson supports the Trump administration's aim to reduce bureaucracy and shift resources and power to district ranger stations.
Right now, the district ranger doesn't make very many decisions. The forest supervisor does. We need to get it back to the line officers.
Paxson says a potential benefit to shifting decision-making power to the local level is that logging and thinning projects like this one could move much quicker.
Then you can make plans and do whatever's needed. Thin timber, prescribed burns, improvements for grazing.
We haven't seen where this plan is going to increase staffing. In fact, may do the opposite.
The leaders of a retired forestry workers association say they aren't seeing new resources go to ranger stations.
Agency leadership have got to quit saying they're going to get more timber cut and they're going to get more fire response done, whatever it is. They think they're going to do more with fewer people. It simply doesn't work that way.
These members describe uncertainty, a lack of details from the Trump administration, and the likelihood that more experienced employees will leave.
6,500 current employees of the Forest Service have been given letters that their jobs may be abolished or they may be moved. We are very concerned.
5 current and recently retired forestry employees, requesting not to be identified, tell me the Forest Service has lost valuable experience. One saying when they started laying people off or telling them if they didn't quit they would be fired, a lot of people left their careers early. Fire is just one thing we are worried about. Everything the Forest Service does is at risk.
From the damage done to our lands, to buildings, to people's lives, wildfires affect all of us here in Arizona.
You can get the very latest information on wildfires burning throughout Arizona by downloading our 12 News app on your phone or streaming app on your TV. Thanks so much for joining us.
"12 News Wildfire Special is sponsored by All Pro Shade Concepts. Gotta have shade.